With Ryan Shumpert, Brent Hubbs, VolQuest.com. Let's talk about Tennessee baseball as we go around the horn on the final weekend of SEC play. Ryan, that was something on a Sunday, but Tennessee on the road gets the series win. They take 2 of 3 from South Carolina. Your thoughts overall on the weekend before we dive into the Saturday game, I guess. I'm in that regular weekend mode, so we'll talk about the Saturday game that wrapped up the series.
Yeah, no, I've been in the same boat anytime it's a Thursday through Saturday series, but it was an exciting weekend of baseball, and really I thought the pitching is what stood out to me about Tennessee. You get a good start from Chad Dallas on Thursday night, and then Friday night you get good from Will Heflin, and then a solid outing for the bullpen. You just had the one pitch from Camden Sewell, was a 3-run homer in his first at bat. From there, he was really good. Heflin was really solid, and then again today, South Carolina scores 4 runs, but Blade Tidwell gives up the home run in the first pitch of the game, or his first pitch of the game, and then he really cruises after that, gets into some trouble in the 8th inning, a couple weak hit balls, scores a run, one's a single that scores a run, and an infield hit. So the pitching really stood out to me, and then the other thing was Tennessee's bottom of the lineup I thought really carried the load this weekend. Not a good weekend for Liam Spence, not a good weekend for Drew Gilbert, but Connor Pavoloni, Pete Durkee, Luke Lipsius, all those guys at the bottom of the lineup were really consistent, and it's funny to say it, but the bottom of Tennessee's lineup really carried the load this weekend.
Yeah, they certainly did. And this South Carolina team is interesting. I can't for the life of me figure out why they didn't put their Friday starter, this weekend's Friday starter, who also started Saturday last week, why he wasn't in their regular rotation as a starter to go as deep as he goes is baffling to me. But I'll let the South Carolina fans figure that one out. Back to the pitching for Tennessee. How significant is it that they got 7 2/3 out of Dallas, 7 out of Tidwell? I know it saved the pen for the weekend, but as you move into postseason play, how important is it that those guys are extending the innings? They're going deeper in games than they were a month ago. How big is that for this team?
It's massive because we've talked about it on here. The biggest question mark with this Tennessee team is the depth of the bullpen. And you get into regions, you're going to have to tax a lot of arms. SEC tournament next week, they're certainly going to have to tax a lot of arms. So any inning, any out you can pick up in addition from your starters. It's just massive, I think. And that was, I think, an area you're seeing this team continue to grow in. Blade Tidwell, back-to-back weeks, goes 7 innings into the 8th inning, doesn't get an out in either 8th inning. So you kind of see him hit a wall. But for a guy that for a lot of the season, it was get into the middle innings. It's 50-50. Well, depending on the week, can he get me to the 6th or 7th? He's consistently with ease gotten Tennessee to 7th the last 2 weeks. Last week against probably the best lineup in the country in Arkansas, and a South Carolina lineup that's certainly capable today. And then Chad Dallas, I think that's kind of his MO. He was able to be a little bit more efficient to get deeper. I don't think you're going to see him go 7 2/3 a lot, but Chad Dallas has been really good at consistently going 6, 7 innings. So I think you have to expect that going forward. And then Will Heflin continues to be a guy that can get, it's not as far, he's not getting them in 7th or 8th, but continues to be a guy that can consistently get Tennessee into the 5th, get them into the 6th, 2 times through the order at a very effective rate. So I think heading into NCAA or postseason play, SEC tournament play, then NCAA tournament play, I think you have to be in a really good spot and feel really good about Tennessee's starting pitching staff.
Did they find anything with Sewell in terms of, because if you're going to play in the SEC tournament, you're not going to go down there and go deep in that tournament with just 3 pitchers because of the format, the way it is. Has Sewell showed enough that if he needed to start, he could start a game, or is that a little bit too much to derive from the fact that he went 3 1/3 and really only made one bad pitch? Other than that, he cruised in relief of Will Heflin.
No, I don't think that's too much at all. I think he's probably Tennessee's 4th starter right now. Maybe the situations change that and they have to use him in the bullpen and they pitch Jason Rackers as that 4th starter. But Camden Sewell has been really good for a couple weeks now, and he continues to get better and better. And I'm sure we'll talk about it here more in a second, but you go down to Hoover, you're going to be playing their first game on Wednesday. You're not going to pitch Chad Dallas, I wouldn't think, on back-to-back weeks, 6 days rest. I would think they'd want to keep that even and not pitch him until Thursday. I think it would make a lot of sense for Camden Sewell to start that first game in the SEC tournament. So his development, I think, is big. He continues to go deeper and deeper, longer and longer, I guess, not deeper into outings. But he's given Tennessee more and more, and he's getting better, really, it seems like, every week. And I think he's 100% ready for a bigger role, whether that's a 4th start or a big moment late in games. Tennessee hands him the ball and says, take us to the finish line. I think Tennessee feels really good with where Camden Sewell is at right now.
Is Tony Vitello most comfortable with Hundley? in any situation. If there's in a jam, is that where he's going to go? I know he got out of the jam today, and then obviously as Coach Vitello said afterwards, I think he called it big stones or something to that effect when talking about his ninth inning. Is that his most trusted guy? If he's sitting there late in the game and he says we're in a tough spot, that's the first and only place I'm going out of the bullpen.
I think so. I mean, I think going into the year, you could have debated Redmond Walsh or Sean Hundley, but Sean Hundley has been more consistent. He's been better, even though Walsh has been better the past few weeks. But I go back to 2019, and Sean Hundley, he wasn't the best arm in that bullpen, but he was so good at getting outs in big moments like he did today. I remember that Florida series Tennessee really needed. I think it was the second to last SEC series, maybe even the last one. Tennessee needed a series win to feel good about making the NCAA tournament. He comes in with a one-run lead in the eighth and ninth inning and gets 6 straight outs. So he's been that guy for years, that he's just very steady, very good in the big moments, doesn't get too big to him. And I'll tell you what, Founders Park was alive after that leadoff double in the ninth inning, and it was certainly alive when he came in the eighth inning. Doesn't seem to face him at all, and he didn't throw. He was in a lot of 0-2 counts, and he didn't really go that slider at all. He had confidence in his fastball. He had confidence he could paint it on the outside corner, and that's what he did for 3 straight guys. And he got Tennessee to the finish line and got them a huge win.
All right, with the win, Tennessee gets another series win, which has become a mainstay for this team when you look at where they are record-wise, 20-10 in SEC play. They secure the 4th seed. What does that mean for Tennessee next week? How does Tony Vitello approach the SEC tournament, knowing they're a lock for a region and they're in great shape for postseason? They're not really playing for seeding or anything else next week. How do you approach the SEC tournament if you're Tony Vitello?
I'll slightly correct you here. They've actually clinched the 3rd seed already with the win today. So
Okay.
It'll be 2 if Kentucky beats Vanderbilt, 3 if not. So, and the first thing, I mean, it's just massive to not have to play on Tuesday. You're already in the double elimination part of the tournament. You get yourself, we mentioned, I don't think they'll throw Chad Dallas until Thursday. Gets you a day closer to your normal weekend guys. And I don't think it's going to be an all-out situation for Tennessee where it's the end-all be-all to win the SEC tournament. But this is a competitive team, and this is a team that likes getting in the fight. So I don't think it's going to be a Tennessee team that goes in there with, we're fine to just win 1 game and lose 2 and go home and get ready for regional. I think you're going to see a Tennessee team that wants to go to Hoover and wants to win. So I think you'll see Tennessee maybe play it a little bit more aggressively than some of the other teams, the Arkansas, the Vanderbilt. But to your point, you're aggressive, but you're never going to do any of that that's going to jeopardize any of your pitching going into the NCAA tournament. So I think you're going to see maybe more innings from Mark McLaughlin, more innings from Jason Rackers, more innings from Camden Sewell, which we just talked about. But I think you're going to see a Tennessee team that's going down there to play to win for a SEC tournament title.
All right. My last question here. We've talked about all year, but baseball teams, coaches are generally creatures of habit. We've not seen Coach Vitello adjust his weekend schedule, even though it was a Thursday, Friday, Saturday versus Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It's Dallas, it's Heflin, it's Tidwell, and it's been that way from the get-go here, even as Tidwell has gotten better. Now you get into region play, things are totally different. Does he shake any of that up, or does he stay sort of on that same schedule, or is that just going to be more about matchups when he learns what that region draw looks like?
I think in the region, it's going to be more about matchups, and probably depends on who you're getting in that second game. I would expect them to start Chad Dallas in the first game in the regional, despite playing a 4 seed. They lost that first game 2 years ago, and it killed them. It set them so far behind. And granted, they threw Garrett Stallings in that game, but I think you'll see the same thing. They're going to come to win that first game with Chad Dallas. I think after that's where it gets interesting. If you win, you're in the biggest game of the regional. That second game is. I think it makes a lot of sense to go with Blade Tidwell in that start. And then the one thing I'll be really interested to see, I think next week in Hoover, you might see Blade Tidwell go before Will Heflin, because I think there's going to be a real emphasis for Blade Tidwell to pitch next weekend. I don't think they want him as a freshman to go 2 straight weeks without throwing going into the NCAA tournament. So I think you may see Tidwell slide up and pitch before Heflin next week. And in the NCAA tournament, I think it's going to be all about matchups.
Wow, that's a great point on making sure that you get Tidwell staying in a groove, pitching week to week, and that you're not in a situation where you're shut down and you're trying to bounce back. That's a great point. I had not thought about that. Tennessee gets a big series win over a dangerous South Carolina team. Another really good series when you look at how this weekend was played. Tennessee disappointing, I'm sure, a little bit with their hitting, but they got great starting pitching, Ryan. And Tennessee is in a place where You thought they could be a pretty good team, but I don't know that anybody thought they would be this kind of team as you get ready to go into postseason play.
Yeah, absolutely. I said before the season, I thought a reasonable, good next step for this program was to host a regional, and I thought that would be a big challenge for this team, be a top 16 team. I thought they were certainly capable of it, but certainly not a laydown. And they've laid down, been a regional host team, and I think they've put themselves in a great spot to be a super regional host team, which is really difficult to do. So I think it speaks to Tony Vitello. It speaks to this team as a whole. The sum is the sum is greater than the parts, and they played great baseball all year. You know, kind of early in SEC play, I was curious if they could keep it up, but they've kept it up. The bats have picked things up, and this is no doubt a really good team that has as good as a chance as anybody to get to a super regional and then get to Omaha in the College World Series.
He's Ryan Shumpert. I'm Brent Hubbs. That's going to do it for this edition of Around the Horn. Postseason play is here. The new season starts for everybody in the SEC, including Tony Vitello's Tennessee Volunteers. Have a great rest of your Saturday, everybody.